At exactly 2:43 p.m. this afternoon, I watched a daughter destroy her father's presidency with 7 words. 7 words that ended 18 months of legal warfare and 30 years of untouchable immunity. I'm Jack Smith, and in 3 decades of federal prosecution, I've never seen anything like what happened in courtroom 4C today. The 7 words, "He asked me to hide the documents." But here's what you didn't see on the news tonight. You didn't see Trump's hands start trembling when his daughter walked through those mahogany doors. You didn't see his lead attorney's face drain of color before Ivanka even sat down. And you definitely didn't see what I saw in her eyes as she looked at the man who taught her everything about power, knowing she was about to take it all away. Let me walk you through the 23 minutes that just changed American history forever. I've prosecuted war criminals who showed more composure than what I witnessed today. When Ivanka entered that witness stand, she wasn't the polished executive we've seen on television. Her voice was steady, but I caught the micro tremor when she said the word defendant instead of father. That's when I knew we weren't dealing with selective memory or family loyalty. We were dealing with someone who had made peace with destroying the person she loved most. The prosecutor started simple. "Miss Trump, did you have access to your father's private study at Mar-a-Lago during 2024? Yes, I helped organize his personal files there." That's when Trump leaned forward. I've seen that body language before in organized crime prosecutions. It's the moment a defendant realizes their carefully constructed alibi is about to crumble. "Did you ever observe classified materials in that study?" Ivanka paused. 3 seconds of silence that felt like 3 hours. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. "I have photographs." The courtroom froze. Trump's attorney shot up like he'd been electrocuted. "Objection, Your Honor, we weren't provided with overruled. The witness may proceed. What happened next will be studied in law schools for generations." Ivanka didn't just describe seeing classified documents. She had been secretly documenting them for months. Photo after photo, timestamp after timestamp. Her own father and his personal study handling materials marked top secret, like they were newspaper clippings. But the devastating moment came when she described a conversation from July 2024. Trump had asked her to reorganize his filing system because visitors might misunderstand what they see. When she asked which files, he pointed to a stack of intelligence briefings and said, "These need to disappear until the heat dies down." He asked me to hide the documents, those 7 words. That's when I watched the most powerful man in America become just another defendant who got caught by his own family. The defense team's strategy had been bulletproof until that moment. They planned to argue Trump didn't know what documents he had, that staff handled everything, that he was too busy with presidential duties to micromanage paperwork. Ivanka just testified that not only did he know exactly what he had, but he actively involved his daughter in concealing evidence from federal investigators. But here's the detail that makes this case a slam dunk for prosecution. When Ivanka described helping to reorganize those files, she mentioned a specific document that caught her attention, a CIA assessment about ongoing operations in Eastern Europe, marked with the highest classification level. Trump had written personal notes in the margins, including phone numbers and contact information. "My father treated classified intelligence like his personal diary," she testified. He would read these assessments and call people to discuss what he'd learned. Do you understand what that means? A former president was potentially sharing active intelligence with unauthorized individuals. That's not document retention, that's espionage. The constitutional implications are staggering. We now have direct testimony from a family member that Trump knowingly compromised national security information. The classification system that protects American agents and military operations worldwide was treated like a personal reference library. What makes Ivanka's testimony legally bulletproof is something most people won't understand. In federal court, family members who testify against each other are given enormous credibility by juries. Why? Because family loyalty is one of the strongest human bonds. When someone breaks that bond to tell the truth, juries assume the testimony must be incredibly compelling. The defense barely cross-examined her. They knew any aggressive questioning would make her more sympathetic. Instead, they tried damage control, asking if she might have misunderstood her father's instructions. Her response was clinical in its precision. I have a master's degree in business administration and served as a senior White House advisor. I understood exactly what he was asking me to do. Game over. But the story gets worse for Trump. During redirect examination, the prosecutor asked about other family members. Ivanka mentioned that Eric and Donald Jr. were present during several of these conversations about document handling. The prosecution now has a roadmap to testimony from the entire family. I watched Trump's composure completely shatter at that moment. His shoulders sagged, his breathing became visible, and for the first time since I've known him, he looked like what he actually is, a 78-year-old man who just realized his own children are going to testify about his crimes. The most damaging evidence came when Ivanka described a phone conversation from December 2024. Trump called her 3 days before a scheduled FBI compliance review, telling her to make sure the housekeeping staff knows which rooms are off limits. That phone call proves ongoing obstruction of justice. Even after multiple subpoenas, even after swearing under oath that everything had been returned, Trump was still trying to conceal evidence. That's not forgetfulness. That's consciousness of guilt. Here's what happened after the hearing that you won't read anywhere else. I watched Trump's legal team, and they weren't strategizing. They were panicking because when your star witness is the defendant's daughter and she's providing evidence that contradicts sworn statements from defense attorneys, everyone in that room starts calculating their own legal exposure. The immunity deal Ivanka negotiated wasn't just about her testimony. She provided physical evidence. Those photographs on her phone, they're now prosecution exhibits. The documents she helped hide, we found them exactly where she said they'd be. This case now has something I've never seen in 30 years of federal prosecution. A completely unimpeachable witness with photographic evidence of ongoing criminal conduct. Ivanka chose the Constitution over family loyalty, and that choice just saved American democracy. The implications extend far beyond one family's legal problems. Every security clearance holder in government is watching this case. If a former president can steal classified materials and face no consequences, why should anyone else follow the rules? The entire intelligence community depends on universal enforcement of classification laws. What happens next will define American democracy for generations. Either we prove that no one is above the law, or we prove that the law only applies to people without famous last names. The wheels of justice are moving. Now, grand jury sessions are scheduled, though officials close to the case suggest indictments could come as early as next month. Additional witnesses are being interviewed, and somewhere in Washington, Justice Department officials are drafting what could be the most consequential legal document in American history. Today, I watched a daughter choose truth over family loyalty. Tomorrow, we find out if America can choose justice over political convenience. The system worked when it mattered most, and it worked because one person decided that protecting the Constitution was more important than protecting her father. But there's something else that happened in that courtroom today that changes everything about how this case moves forward. Something the media missed completely because they were focused on the dramatic headlines. During a 10-minute recess after Ivanka's testimony, I observed Trump attempt to approach his daughter. Secret Service intervened, but not before I saw what passed between them. No words were exchanged, but Trump's expression was pleading, almost desperate. Ivanka's response was a slight shake of her head and turned back. That silent exchange told me everything I needed to know about where her loyalties now lie. When court reconvened, the prosecutor asked one final question that nobody saw coming. Ms. Trump, are you aware of any other family members who have information relevant to this investigation? The silence in that room was deafening. Ivanka looked directly at the defense table where Trump sat between his lawyers, and I watched his face transformed from desperation to resignation. Yes, my husband Jared documented several conversations he had with my father about document security protocols. That's when Trump's head dropped into his hands, because Jared Kushner isn't just another family member. He held the highest security clearances in the previous administration. His testimony won't just be about family drama. It will be about a systematic violation of national security protocols by someone who swore an oath to protect them. The defense team immediately requested an emergency conference with the judge. I've seen this move before in organized crime cases. It's not legal strategy, it's damage control when your entire case just imploded. During that conference, which lasted 47 minutes, I watched the courtroom gallery. Representatives from major news networks, congressional staffers, and what appeared to be intelligence community officials, all sitting in stunned silence. Everyone understood they had just witnessed a constitutional earthquake. Here's what most Americans don't understand about classified documents. It's not just about keeping secrets. These materials contain information that, if compromised, could get people killed. When Ivanka described her father sharing details from CIA assessments with unauthorized individuals, she wasn't just describing document mishandling. She was describing potential treason. The phone records that Ivanka provided as part of her cooperation agreement show calls to foreign nationals within hours of Trump reviewing classified intelligence briefings. The timeline is damning. Read classified assessment, make phone calls, discuss operational details with people who have no security clearance. When the judge returned from conference, her instructions to the jury were unprecedented. She told them that what they had heard today represented testimony of the highest national security significance, and that they should consider carefully the weight of evidence provided by family members in criminal proceedings. That judicial language is code. It means the judge believes this testimony is credible and devastating to the defense. As court adjourned, I watched Trump's motorcade departure. For the first time since I've been prosecuting this case, he didn't stop to speak to the media. No claims of witch hunt, no attacks on prosecutors, no confident predictions of vindication, just silence and the slumped shoulders of a man who knows the game is over. Tonight, somewhere in Washington, Justice Department officials are calculating the political cost of indicting a former president whose own daughter just provided evidence of ongoing criminal conduct. The decision they make will echo through American history for generations. The system worked today not because it's perfect, but because one person decided that protecting her country was more important than protecting her father. Tomorrow, we find out if that same principle applies to an entire nation. The trial continues. The evidence is overwhelming. All